So thank you so much for being with us today, Lukas.
Thank you for having me. I'm in Santa Barbara for the moment, so I feel like I'm pretty far away, but I'm very happy to talking with Spain today.
Yeah. What are you doing there? Are you campaigning for your future possible Oscar?
Uh, I like that you phrase it like that, but yes, I am campaigning for the moment. So we are actually showing the film to as many Americans possible. We're organizing screenings, organizing Q&As, and so we have a tournée here in America.
Okay. I interviewed a couple of days ago Santiago Mitre, director of Argentina, 1985, and he told me something I didn't know, that campaigning for an Oscar is a really hard job. You have to talk to many people. You have to show that movie to many different audiences. Do you feel this like a really tough job, Lukas?
It's true that when you imagine it, that it seems very romantic, the idea of the Oscars. It seems like rewarding, the best. But actually, I mean, I truly connect with what he says because it's true that actually it takes a lot of work bringing this film to its audience. There's so many international films. People, they can't see everything, so you try to push your film as much forward as you can and try to handle it with as much care possible. But it's true, it's hard work. It's going to the screenings, it's inviting as much people as you can, it's talking to everyone, and this for a couple of months. So I feel like if I have to compare it to something, because I joke to my brother about this. I say for the moment I'm more a politician than a filmmaker.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. This is your second feature film, and now you're there in Santa Barbara, trying to get a nomination. When you reflect on everything that happened to you in the last 5 years, how do you see yourself? How do you see yourself? Is this a dream to you somehow? Is this something you dreamt of and now you've achieved? How do you see yourself?
Well, I knew I wanted to be a filmmaker ever since I was 12. And my mom, she borrowed a camera from a friend of hers that she gave to me and my brother in order to make films. And so every holiday that we had, we would build the course, we would make costumes, I would write scripts for them, for my mother and my brother, that is. And so I would film them nonstop ever since I was 12. And that went on for the longest possible time. Like my mother got sick of being in front of my camera. I mean, of course, she's lovely, but at a certain, I remember how everyone was like, again, really? Um, and so it feels somehow like this has always been my passion. This has always been my mission. Um, and that is something unexplainable to me. Um, so, I mean, I'm very happy that today in my life, I get to make films because already it's a privilege. Um, but I get to make films about things that I know as a young person I couldn't speak of. I treat themes like identity, gender, sexuality. All these themes were unspeakable for me when I was young. I
Mhm,
wasn't
mhm.
able to express them. And so now finally being able to express them through cinema, for me is a sort of quest of liberation. So, I mean, is this a dream? It surely is my passion, and to understand that what we brought into the world, because I'm of course making a film as a collaboration, you do that with so many people, that what we bring into this world, that people embrace it, that people um, connect themselves to it, that it resonates with them, that is a true gift. Yes, that is a true
Mhm.
gift. And there's this very Flemish poet, a very renowned Flemish poet, and he is called Herman de Koning. And when he talks about poetry, he always says, like, the task of a poet is to start from something incredibly personal, like, for let's say, a personal agony, and then try to find a way to leave the me behind and make that about the universal sadness rather than a personal one. And that idea, that concept that the Greek had also, I mean, when they used the word catharsis, I think this is what they refer to, is really something that I strongly believe in as a quality for cinema as well. This idea that in a world that wants to show us exactly how different we are constantly, that art can also be this source of connection. Yeah, so I'm happy that I'm able to do that.
But when I hear you talking about this passion and about the art, this is talking about the artistic side of the job, right? But there's there's the economics of it, the industry there, and how difficult is it to finance, for example, a film. You had an enormous success with Girl. Did you find difficult to raise the money for this second film, or was it easy?
I mean, easy, I wouldn't say. It's always a challenge. You have to go through all these submissions, especially because in Europe, of course, we have another funding system than in the States. Like I don't know if it's the same in Spain, but I assume yes. We have to hand in dossiers, and then we get government funding, and then we can go for co-productions, etc., etc. So you always have to, I mean, I feel like you have to go through these years, I mean, in our case, 3 years, where you constantly talk and present and defend your film and try to engage people with money in order to embark on you on this journey. So that is not easy because it takes a lot of energy. But at the same time, because you have to do that, for me, it's also about constantly, while I'm doing it, rephrasing what I actually want to do. And I feel like by having to do it so many times, that I feel at the end of the road, I know exactly what the film should be about and how I should speak about the film.
So it kind of helps you, like, to shape the project and to be clear on your ideas on the film.
And now I'm looking at it from an optimistic point of view, right?
Yeah, I know. It seems so.
But that's the thing. That's, I think, how you should look at it. And I mean, in many ways, I've been privileged because I have gotten the chance. I know there's many projects out there, many talented makers that haven't been presented the chance. And that might not even have to do with the beauty of their story or the talent that they have. That might just have to do with, you know, exterior factors. So I count myself in that we have been able to finance these projects. And I wouldn't say it's been easy, but at the same time, I do feel like we were able to embark financiers with us on these journeys.
So speaking about clothes, I've read a couple of interviews you gave in Cannes when you premiered the film, and of course you were talking about this story about the strong friendship between two young men, two teenagers, and how men, we don't express our feelings so easily when we turn 14, 15 years old. And then you talked about how easily we mistake these close friendships with sexual attraction. So I wanted to ask you about this risk when you were making the project. If you were really aware that this risk of people looking at the story and saying, oh, well, they're gay, they're in love, or this is easy. How did you manage this risk during the journey of the film?
Well, the thing is, I think the best way to respond to that is that I knew it, yes, and I embraced it because we as a society, and I'm included in that, have been conditioned for the longest time look at sensuality and intimacy between boys as something sexual. We haven't given boys, men, the space to express themselves in when it comes to tenderness, vulnerability, closeness, actually. What we teach these young boys from a young age, you know, from 14, 15, like you say, is that expressing love, expressing tenderness towards other boys, that it's actually not something that serves them in this world, that it's not traits that are appreciated around masculinity. And actually what we do from a young age is we deconnect them. And I think that me as a writer, when I came upon that research, that what I tell you now is it's based on a book, an American book called Deep Secrets, where a psychologist followed the lives of 150 boys over 5 years. So what I say comes out of that book. That's of course the strength of sociology, that you can really prove something by following many. When I read that, it was an eye-opener for me. And it really was because I always had the feeling that experience of taking distance, that was related to me being a young queer boy growing up. But then I realized that queer was between brackets and that it was actually about me being a boy growing up. And yes, I mean, I know that we are conditioned as a society in that way. I know that the tenderness of the beginning of this film and the sensuality, that you will immediately have that connotation, or that an audience thinks that way, because these types of images normally we get to see them in a film that is about sexuality. Normally, if these types of images are there, the film is going to be about their sexualities. And actually what we decided to do is we don't care about their sexuality. Like I told them, I don't know what their sexuality is, to be honest. And it's not the point for me. The point is that we try to categorize and label and put in boxes those things that we want to understand. And therefore, sometimes we smother the beautiful, intense, deep connection between young human beings.
That was my next question. My next question was about the shooting. Did you have to explain much to your actors? Like when you addressed their relationship between the two male protagonists, did you have to explain much, or they were smart enough, or they were in the right age to understand it perfectly without you explaining much?
I always say to people, in men, and I mean it, I'm going to be really serious now, I think kids are more intelligent than adults. Especially when it comes to emotional intelligence. When you listen to a kid express emotion, it's pure. It's in straight line, it's in straight connection with the heart. In puberty, there is this moment where we start to become performers.
Yeah.
Because groups have a sort of force on us and we want to belong to a group. And as adults, sometimes we don't speak about the things we actually should speak about. So when it comes to emotional intelligence, I strongly believe in young people. So when they read the script, we just talked about friendship, connection, loss, and they are two young boys growing up in this moment in time, so they understand the pressures of masculinity. They do. And for them, also because they are 13, you know, that age when they still can talk about their friends like it's love stories, when they read the script, they saw it as a love story in the broadest sense of the word. They saw it as two young boys who cling together, who feel like they are one, who feel like they are each other's most important person in life. And I think that also was what I confirmed to them, is that is also what for me it's about. And really I didn't want to have I mean, even if I think at that age they start to talk about that, I didn't really want to invade them with questions around sexuality, because also I had the feeling then they would maybe have to talk about their own sexuality, and I don't think that was the point for me. I mean, I always try to install that they can tell me anything that they want during the shoot or before even, and they will. But when it came to these characters, no. I mean, it was about friendship, masculinity, love, and everything that came with it.
Okay, let's change the topic a little bit. Your career has started like a few years ago in a crazy landscape, with cinemas struggling for their lives and platforms thriving. Now maybe they are a little bit in recession, but platforms are there. Can you imagine, can you guess where are you going to show your work in 5 years, 10 years time? Do you see your next films coming out in cinemas like they do now?
Yes. Yes, totally. Because I think that, well, first of all, I'm confronted now, being on tour with this film, I'm confronted with full theaters, not with half full theaters. Like everywhere I go, these theaters are full of people who want to experience together for an hour and 40 minutes in the dark, even if they don't know each other, this one piece. And I think that this sense of connection, this sense of connectedness, is something that in a world that is over digitalizing, we are gonna look for. We are gonna look for connection. And the beauty of watching a film in a cinema and not at home on a streamer is it's not only about the movie. It's also about what you collectively experience, and therefore what you learn about the human condition. Because when I went to go see Triangle of Sadness in a cinema in my hometown in Ghent. And I'm so happy that I did, because there was a collective wave going through that theater of disgust, humor, intrigue, and like film, and we're looking at each other like, what? We're talking with each other. And that is so powerful. You would never have that. You would never experience that film the same way if you were watching it on Netflix. And that's not to say that you can't watch things on streamers. I also do. Sometimes that's how I want to look at things. But I strongly believe in the strength and the therapeutic effect of cinema. And also for a young generation that is confronted with many screens. And there's a sort of numbness of the screen. You get like teenagers just not watching reality anymore, but just only their like iPhone. And when they're at home and one screen is playing, also observing the 3 other screens in front of them. And so going to a theater where there's one screen and you're forced to look at one thing for an hour, 40 minutes or longer, I think it's incredibly necessary. So yeah, I would say cinemas.